The thing that I realized, whether it was against Michael or Kobe or anyone that was great, it just forced you to go to another level.
Right.
Greatness brings out greatness in others. What the NBA has figured out, and what we in soccer and other sports, is we're in the experience business.
Welcome to Gameplan, a podcast where we're going to be meeting athletes, business owners, entrepreneurs, and industry leaders. I'm Kaio, Philipe, and I'm going to be your host. What is your game plan?
On this week's episode, Grant Hill.
You have a lot of kids watching right now and watching the next, what they want to be next, what they want to do. They are on TikTok and social media, and they're looking after the players. They're saying, I want to be like that guy. They can relate, right? And that inspires people. And they were seeing your Sprite ad, which was amazing, by the way. I still think that's a great advertising for, even though that was been like 20 years.
Oh.
But that was inspiring generations. And who inspired you when you were young, when you were like 15?
Yeah, so great question. And obviously back, when I was young in the 80s, it was a very different time. You didn't have social media.
Right.
You didn't have technology. And so, there were people, celebrities, politicians, athletes who were famous, who you could, that could inspire you. But first and foremost, my parents. I mean, those were my heroes. Those were my inspiration. They were incredibly successful, hardworking, and they were mom and dad. So I got a chance to see them every day and see how, see the reasons why that they were successful in what they did. Of course, as athletes, I was a big football fan. My dad played in the NFL. So people like Roger Staubach, who named me. He was a former quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys and went on to a successful business career after playing. He was one of my heroes. Of course, in basketball, Dr. J, Magic Johnson. So
Johnson you were a fan of Johnson?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Still am.
Great guy.
There were people, my mom's business partner, a gentleman named Clifford Alexander, very accomplished, very successful. So there were people who I knew and people that I could touch and that I could have conversations with that inspired me. And then there were people that I had pictures on my wall.
Like who?
Like a Magic Johnson, like a Reginald Lewis. Reginald Lewis is a famous African-American. He was the first African-American to put together $1 billion company in the 80s called TLC Beatrice. And so his book, Why Should White Guys Have All the Fun, was a book I read in the 80s. And so people like that, not just prominent athletes, but prominent business people, people in politics. Bill Bradley, who was a famous basketball player for the Knicks, went to Princeton, was senator from New Jersey, and watching how he was able to ascend to a level in government after playing. I really liked athletes who excelled and then found a way to excel after their playing days were over. Bill Bradley, Roger Staubach, Magic Johnson, Julius Erving. Those were just some of the names and some of the people that I looked up to.
You were a 7-time NBA All-Star.
Correct.
You won 2 Olympic medals. One as a player in Atlanta, 1996, and just one last year in Paris as the mastermind of the Team USA.
Right.
You had a $93 million contract in the NBA back in the days, which would be north of $200 million these days.
Yeah.
You had a shoe deal, an amazing shoe deal, that even the legend Tupac wore your sneakers. I'm sure you remember that.
Yeah.
You beat Michael Jordan a few times. You are a father, a Duke grad. You are a part owner of a team of the MLS, NWSL, in the MLB, and NBA.
Yeah.
When you wake up every morning, what is your game plan?
Well, your game plan ultimately is to seize the day and make the most of that day. And maybe because I'm older than you, you realize your time should not be wasted. But it's really depending upon what that day calls for. And I also serve on corporate boards. I have a real estate business. So I'm a busy man. And I think prioritizing, being organized with your time is of the utmost importance. And then carving in that balance. You can work hard, but you also should play hard. And I don't play hard, but just finding times to relax and have the necessary balance in life. And so it depends on what the day calls for. Sometimes it's travel, sometimes it's interviews, sometimes it's business meetings, sometimes it's all of that combined in one day. But I look forward to the morning when I wake up for the challenge and the opportunity that's ahead. And every day is different. Every day is unique. But I think we all can make every day special with the attitude that we take in approaching it.
You wake up early?
I do. I'm an early riser.
What time? 5, 6?
Yeah,
5 is too early.
Between 5 and 6. Some usually within that window of time.
In Orlando, when I moved here, I start going to bed early. In Miami, 11 p.m. is like dinner time. It's like Europe. And here is like 9 p.m. We're like, nobody on the streets.
Right.
You went to Duke. Let's talk about that. So that tells that you had resilience. You were dedicating yourself. You were working harder than majority of the people. Of course, your parents were in the corporate world and they worked for the White House, right? Super successful as well as your mother. But at the same time, you didn't pick an easier path. You weren't partying. You weren't doing what many kids do when they are 18. 19, you were playing basketball. Why so hard for a player to become, with all the net worth that they build, why so hard to become a successful business entrepreneur after they retire?
Well, look, I understand, first of all, not everybody wants to be in business.
Right.
We all are pursuing success, and we all define success differently. I think there's some who might want to be in philanthropy, some who want to coach, maybe teach, give back to their communities. Whatever it is, you have to find purpose and meaning. But I went into professional sports knowing it was going to end and wanting to use the platform that being a professional athlete in the NBA can afford you. And so that was on my brain from the very beginning. And I believe the values and the life lessons necessary to make that transition all come from being an athlete. So much of what I've done and so much what I continue to do in all aspects of my life came from being an athlete. Hard work,
yep.
Discipline, sacrifice, collective responsibility, managing success,
right,
handling failure.
Yep.
All of these values I learned playing basketball, even playing soccer. I was a soccer player.
You were a soccer player?
Till I was 14. But all of that, I think, just gives you a moral fabric and an integrity and a substance,
right,
that you just have to tap into. It's already there. You've been doing it your entire life. And as you now transition from when your playing career is over, it's just taking those values with you and applying them wherever you choose to go. I chose to get into the business world. And so much of what I do, and like I said, so much of how I think, how I prepare, how I approach life comes from being an athlete.
And you mentioned a few things that I'm unpacking, but you, about resilience, right? 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you had a big contract with the Orlando Magic, and you were fighting, right? You never gave up. You were fighting. You almost died, right, in a surgery, and that tells a lot about you as a person, as a fighter. Right. So you were never giving up. You were always going there. And maybe business is about that, right? Because it's about failure. Right. looking back, what would you tell yourself when you were there? You had all this pressure from the media, from yourself. I don't think the pressure was from outside. I think the pressure was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but seeing your success, I think the pressure was within. What would you tell yourself, young Grant, 25 years ago?
Look, I've been through some highs and some lows, and certainly the injury ordeal was incredibly challenging for a number of reasons. But I think there was also some incredible lessons and beautiful moments, even in the disappointment and in the struggle. And I would probably just sort of tell myself, as crazy as this might sound, to enjoy the journey. It's a privilege to have to go through stuff, to go through those hard times. Those hard times, they strengthen us. They callous you. They force you to learn more about who you are. And I look at a loss, when a team goes out and loses a game, they're more inclined to look in the mirror. Yeah, they're more inclined to look within and say, okay, how can I be better? How can we be better? And I think the same thing applies when you go through a hardship, when you go through, you go through some adversity. And that was very hard and it was very adverse for me. But to kind of just appreciate the opportunity to go through it. And I'm telling you, in my life, sometimes winning can mask problems.
Right.
You have a team and, you're going through stuff. You're not playing well, but you win the game.
Right.
And, all is well. Winning, everything's fine. It can sometimes hide some things. But when you lose, you now are forced to really go through an exercise of self-improvement.
You're exposed.
You're exposed. Yeah. And so in a weird kind of way, that whole injury saga, as hard as that was, as disappointing as that was, as much it may have affected my legacy as a basketball player, it forced me to get better as a human being, as a husband, as a father, just overall. And so I would tell myself, don't be so hard on yourself. Just as crazy as it sounds, enjoy the process.
I think
if you're going to enjoy the winning and the success,
you have to enjoy them.
You got to endure the difficulties and almost learn to enjoy those difficulties.
I think you did very well. You ended up doing very well. You still do. I think we should be very proud and thankful for everything you accomplished. And again, because of you, the U.S. has 2 gold medals. And but of course, when you see, and you mentioned a couple of things that it resonates what's happening right now, especially in tennis. You have all these players, I don't know if you're following, but they are all going on these interviews, which is very weird, right? You just lost a game and you are obliged to go and do like a press conference. Right. And then reporters don't help. They just go and say, how you're feeling, right? Well, we are feeling, the guest is the tennis player is feeling bad. They just lost. Right. So they are talking a lot about mental health. Yeah. And I'm sure there was no mental health conversation, or at least there wasn't a topic that people would name as mental health. Right. Of course, there was mental health, not denying that, but it wasn't flagged or in a box as is today. What do you tell about those players? You mentioned a lot about resilience and enjoying the journey and learning and taking appreciation of the journey. But what do you tell about those players that are facing that, the hardship of, facing failure right now?
Well, it's a different time in a different world that we currently live in. And unlike when I was in my heyday 25, 30 years ago, you didn't have social media. And so the noise was low. And what I mean by that is, there was criticism, the newspaper, but typically a newspaper has an editorial process. An editor will vet articles. There's lawyers who legal team vet. And so there's a hint of truth in what's reported for the most part back 25, 30 years ago. Now you're in a world, and as an athlete, whether tennis, basketball, soccer, football, whatever it might be, where the noise is loud. And because of social media, because of technology, they hear it. And fans are great. Fans, there's a passion. We fill up this arena, the stadium here, because the fans have passion for their team. But fan also, and I say this respectfully, fan is short for fanatic.
Right.
And when you're a fanatic and you're passionate, you can be all over the map. And so when you're saying things online and being very cruel, athletes today, they see that.
Yep.
And that can affect how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your performance. So mental health, the term or the phrase mental health, as you said 30 years ago, we never quite heard that, particularly in sports, but now it's prevalent. And I applaud these athletes for being honest and being transparent about their journey. I think it can help others who maybe are struggling in some form or fashion to seek help and get help. But it's just a different landscape, and there are a different set of pressures. And we think as fans, oh, this player is, they're one of the best in the world and they're making all types of money, that they should just be immune from all of that.
Right?
But they're still human beings.
Yep.
And human beings have feelings, have emotions. So mental health, it's in the last decade, I'd say, it's become more a thing, and there's been more a need to study it. But also that's coincided with the advent of social media over the last decade, and the fans being able to speak their mind, both good and bad, that impacts players today.
And I don't think it's going anywhere. It's just growing.
I agree.
So we were talking about social media and the whole pressure, right?
Yeah.
And then in the past, you would just buy tabloids or not. Your team would just remove that in front of you and say, don't read that shit, you don't need to read these things, just focus on the game.
Right.
And you shared the court with both Jordan and Kobe
back
in the days, and you beat Jordan a few times.
Yeah.
I'm not asking who was better, because I think that's probably what people ask you the most. But I want to know, what did those matchups teach you about yourself when you were facing Jordan at the time? And you were both kings in your own thing, right? You had a $80 million, if not more, deal with Fila. Great shoes, by the way, great sneakers, part of the pop culture.
Yeah.
And he was in the Nike thing, which you didn't want to close with Nike, right? But what did you learn from those experience playing with those folks at the time?
Yeah, so I'm younger than Jordan. Jordan is maybe 8, 9 years older than me, but then I'm older than Kobe, and so when I was healthy in those Detroit years, it was really a fascinating time. Kobe was sort of at the early stages of his iconic career, and Jordan was kind of at the end. And so, and that overlapped a bit. And maybe in some ways I was kind of one of those, like a bridge between the two. But the thing that I realized, whether it was against Michael or Kobe or anyone that was great, it just forced you to go to another level.
Right.
Greatness brings out greatness in others. And you know that you have to get your sleep. You have to be prepared. You have to bring your A game, your A+ game. If not, then, you'll lose or you'll be embarrassed. And so it really challenged you. It challenged you to be the best version of yourself. And those were magical times.
I think so.
And we focus on those two, and rightfully so, but there were others. I mean, obviously throughout your career. And so those were games that you circled the calendar and you really looked forward to. And part of it was, okay, you want to win, but part of it, you want to measure yourself against the best. You want to see how did I fare? How can I outduel them and win? And sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't. But the pursuit of being the best version of yourself was something that was very appealing to me.
Ended up taking the U.S. team last year to win another gold medal. And you should be proud of yourself because you were managing the Avengers, right? How do you manage all those egos, brands, expectations? I mean, it's crazy, right? To think that you put in the same court LeBron, Stephen Curry, and you have all these expectations to win. How do you manage that? Or how did you manage that?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to do again, right? If like, assuming that's
I'm still in the role.
Right.
So we have the LA Olympics in
which is going to be
2028.
fantastic, by the way.
Yes. So, it's really being managing director of USA Basketball and having the role and responsibility of assembling the Olympic team, the coaching staff, and all the logistics that come with that.
Right. The business.
The business, yeah. I think it was sort of everything that I've done in my life. As a player, as someone in business, as a leader, which, by the way, those are the three things that the world that I'm in now, it's sports, business, and leadership. And they all kind of overlap. And that's the sandbox or sandboxes that I currently play in. But all of those experiences, all the collection of those experiences prepared me for that moment and prepared me, I think.
I'm sure.
And so how do you lead? I think, first of all, it's just being honest. It's being honest with guys. It's establishing a vision. It's also explaining how we intend to execute. It's having respect for yourself, but respect for them and respect for the program.
Right.
The legacy of USA Basketball. And then I think a skill set that applies in a locker room, but also in a boardroom.
Right.
And I learned this as a player, is being able to connect with people, being able to cultivate relationships. You have this image 40 years ago of a leader being in a three-piece suit in an office that no one can get to. And
the boss.
Yes. And, I think we've evolved in terms of how we think about the boss,
right,
and about leadership. And I think leadership is serving, leadership is connecting, leadership is inspiring. And you have to get to know the people you're leading. And so investing in people is so important. And I tried to invest leading up to the Olympics in all those guys. It was incredible pressure and incredible expectations. And thankfully, we succeeded. There were some fires that we had to put out. Some were public, many were private, but we got through it, and we got through it together, and we achieved our goal.
Is there any fun thing about Paris that you want to share? You mentioned, I think, in Atlanta, every player they want to be the last to, or they didn't want to test for the drug test because they didn't want to be waiting, right? Obviously. Was there anything in Paris that it was fun to share, like a fun fact?
Yes, this wasn't fun, but it's fun looking back at it. So the pool play games were in Lille, France, which was about 3.5 hours from Paris. And then the medal rounds were in Paris. We stayed in Paris. So we had to take the train up, which was about an hour train.
Like the Euro train?
So we had a car. It was a logistical nightmare, but we figured it out. Well, one of our games in Lille was a late game, and the game concluded after the train station closed. So we had to take a 3.5 hour bus ride from Lille to Paris at like 11 p.m. at night and not getting in till 2 a.m. And so I'm on the bus. Now it's raining, so we're going slow. We have a police escort.
Of course.
And I'm thinking to myself, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Kevin Durant, all the guys on the bus.
You, Grant Hill.
I don't think they've ever been on a 3-hour bus ride
in their lives, in the last 25 years.
Exactly.
Right?
Not since maybe they were kids or teenagers. And so, but the beauty of that, and something that made me proud of them, none of them complained. None of them it affected how they approached or how they felt about the experience. They were all in, and it showed character. And to me, you got to have talent, but you also have to have character. We had a locker room of character, not characters.
Interesting. Is LeBron more like Iron Man or Captain America?
I say Iron Man. I feel like Durant is Captain America, and I think LeBron might be more Iron Man. But we had, I mean, you could flip it either way. Both of them were magical and had great moments.
Right.
And those great moments were needed.
That's the Avengers. You bet on women's sport.
Yes.
And the Orlando Pride, we are here at the Inter&Co Stadium, beautiful arena, one of the best arenas, if not the best arena in America for soccer. Orlando Pride has been the number one team in the globe. There is nothing like it. Marta, she's amazing. Barbara as well. You have the best players, the best venue. Valuations are exploding. If you see the teams that got more value last year, especially with the Pride winning the championship, media rights are growing. Fans are showing up. We had over 20,000 people the other day here to watch the Pride. What did you see before the rest of the world?
Well, for me, I'm a girl dad, so I have two daughters, and from the time they were very young, they showed interest in sports, and so I just simply wanted them to see women professionals at the highest level. And sadly, 10, 15 years ago, you didn't have a lot of examples, and so. But here in Orlando, when the Pride started, we started taking my daughter who played soccer. And as I got into it, I became a huge, huge fan. I'd already followed the WNBA in basketball and had taken them to WNBA games out in Phoenix. And so really it all kind of started when my wife and I, we became fans. We were fans and then became season ticket holders. Then we became suite holders. And then we became owners.
Why not, right?
Why not? But I just feel, and I always felt that you have, and particularly in the NWSL and the WNBA, which, by the way, we were just awarded in Detroit to have an expansion team for the WNBA that was just announced last week. So
what is going to be the name?
We haven't figured that out yet, but it'll be in 2029.
Wow.
So we are really excited. And I obviously played in Detroit, so that's something that's exciting. But I'm bullish on women's professional sports. And I feel like there have been great female athletes across the board in leagues and sports for years, for decades. But now the rest of the world is paying attention.
Yep.
Now we've kind of passed this inflection point where, we want to see the greatness. We want to see it on television. The viewership is up. People are filling up stadiums. People are filling up our stadium. They want to see these excellent athletes at a high level. So I feel like, this is an interesting theory. You have three buckets in professional sports. You have the legacy bucket, those sports and those leagues that have been around for 100 years, 70 years. Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA. They've weathered cycles. They've grown. They are a part of the American sort of consumer culture, if you will. Then you have the early startup bucket, and you have some of these leagues now, like professional volleyball and professional lacrosse and very early stages. And you hope that they survive, but they may not. We'll see. And I feel like the NWSL, it's in this growth bucket. It's in this growth stage now where, it was early stage. It's here now. It's established itself. It has a visible presence. You can see the momentum building. You have great leadership.
Yep.
You have great ownership, the money and the capital invested in it. So it's exciting. It's exciting to be in this growth stage and to see over the next 10, 20, 30 years, if we collectively can continue to help build this incredible league.
And you see, you when you answered, you said, I have two daughters. So it always started with your foundation, who you are, your mother, your daughters. And vision is about that, right? It's about you. It's about what you believe, your foundation, your ideology. So I'm really happy to see this. And And I think that I'm with you. I think the next 20, 30 years will be about a lot about women. As a girl's dad as well.
Yeah, there you go.
I bet on that. But let's talk about the NBA for a second. Adam Silver, who was once the NBA commissioner or CEO, how they call, said that the NBA was not only competing with sports, they were competing with Netflix, Hollywood, right? So if you sell a ticket for the movies for $10, they might as well just buy. They might as well just show up and buy popcorn, beer, same as they do in the movies. People. Now you got Jokic, Luka, Giannis, and you have all this global insertion of talent coming to America. But those guys are not chasing the fame. They're not chasing the likes on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
They're not chasing the Hollywood vibes. Jokic just want to play. They just want to go and ball. What does it say about where the NBA is headed?
Yeah, I think the NBA is in a great spot. You have over 20, almost 30% of the league are international players.
How much was in your time? Do you remember? Do you know? I know
Probably less than 5%.
Less than 5%, of course.
And when I first came in the league in the 90s. So the game all over the globe is growing, in part because of some of the superstars that you mentioned.
Right.
Jokic and Giannis and Luka and so on and so forth. I can go anywhere in the world, and I have, and people identify me because of my association with the NBA. So the brand has a global reach and a global presence. I also think that, the NBA now, you brought up a great point about competing with the streamers. And, when I was younger, there were fewer entertainment options available. And so now you can stay at home and be on your computer. You can be on your phone and be entertained throughout the day, whether social media, whether streaming, whether surfing the net, whatever the case may be. So what the NBA has figured out, and what we in soccer and other sports, is we're in the experience business. And I think that is vitally important, especially as we all have gone through COVID, as we, social media with young people. I think also with the world at times feeling like it could be more divided than it had been in years past. Sports brings us together. Sports is a unifier in a lot of ways. So we went through a remodel in Atlanta about 7-8 years ago. We remodeled our arena, and we realized it's all about the experiences. And so what are the 3 things that can get people off of their Netflix and get them to get in their car, drive to an arena, and spend money? It's 3 things. And these are the 3 that we came up with. Food.
Okay.
People will go to a restaurant, go somewhere where they can have good food. Music.
Of course.
They'll get in their car to go listen to music and enjoy a performance. And then sports. And in our arena, we do all 3. And we have a great concert business. We have great local cuisine that's featured throughout the arena. And of course, we have NBA entertainment and NBA basketball. And so, I think sports plays a huge role in our humanity and our ability to connect. When the Orlando Pride, when we won our championship last year, and we were on our run, and we were steamrolling the competition and winning all these regular season games, and then the playoff games leading up to the championship, which was in Kansas City.
Yep.
You'd come in this stadium, and there were people from all walks of life, different ethnicities, different genders, differences across the board, but they're all wearing purple, and they're all cheering Marta and Banda and our team. And that's a beautiful thing. And people want to experience that. Of course, they want to win a championship.
Yeah.
But so I think the NBA is just continuing to grow and continuing the global media rights, continuing to expand in popularity. And I'm just grateful to be a part of it as a broadcaster, as an owner, as a leader with USA Basketball. We all have a role in growing this and continuing to move it forward.
Dwayne Wade or Magic Johnson?
Oh, man, you can get me in trouble. I love both those guys. I love Wade, but I'm going with Magic.
Johnson or LeBron?
So you got to understand, the old guys I'm probably going to gravitate towards because they were my heroes. And so they were the one, I had their photos on my wall. So sorry, LeBron, I'm going with Magic.
Johnson or Luka?
Johnson.
Johnson it is. Whew. It's warm, no? You've been here for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
How is the perfect day in Orlando for you?
So I moved here in 2000, and I was obviously still playing basketball. I was hurt when I first moved here, so a different time, a different experience. But now, at this point in my life, I think a perfect day is being outdoors, and obviously the summertime, it can be a little warm.
Yeah.
And so we live on a lake, and so it's always good to be in the water, whether the pool or a lake. I love golf now. It's one of my new passions. And so there's so many wonderful golf options here in Orlando. So I like being outdoors on the golf course. I can't play basketball anymore. And also like being in the water, working on my tan.
I was gonna ask you that because I moved from Miami a couple of years ago to Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Brazil before, so a lot of Brazilians in Central Florida, as you know.
Yeah.
I bet you know a lot of Brazilians here in Orlando, big community. What is your favorite restaurant in Orlando? Because I know, you've been everywhere, right? You lived in every place in America. But when somebody comes here from out of town, what is your favorite place? What is the restaurant that you say you should go in Orlando?
Well, during the 25 years, I think the restaurant scene here has changed. It's evolved. And I think at first there were a lot of chain restaurants, which are good. And I think sort of tend to target more the tourist market. Right. But there's been a lot of upstarts in recent years. If I give you the name of this restaurant and your viewers or become aware of it, then it'll be harder to get a seat.
Come on.
But my favorite place, and I love all different types of cuisine, it's a place called Cadence. And
Cadence?
Cadence. It's spelled with a K. And it's sushi.
Okay.
But all of the fish and the ingredients are flown in daily. There's only 2 seatings.
It's an omakase?
Yeah. And there's 9 stools, and become very friendly with the chefs who are owners. They play music while they're, making and creating your 12, 13 course meal. And so it's a great vibe. It's great energy in there, and it's very intimate. So it's my favorite restaurant. But there's so many to choose from here in Orlando, which is, as someone who likes to eat, it's very good.
Even Michelin is here, right? But talking about stars, let's be real.
Okay.
What's the next game plan for Grant Hill in the next 5, 15, 20 years?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling like I'm just getting started. And so I'm excited about what the future holds. There's an old expression my father used to tell me: a whale doesn't get harpooned until it spouts. And so I say that to say that I have still goals, still challenges that I want to tackle. I'm not going to broadcast what they are.
Right.
But no, I think the important thing and what I've tried to do is to continue to challenge myself, continue to be uncomfortable, continue to put myself in situations which force me to grow. And I think we all can do that, and that's what I've tried to do. So we'll have to stay. Maybe we'll do an interview in 10 years and we can recap.
I hope so, in the winter. Grant, thank you so much.
All right, man.
Appreciate your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Gameplan is brought to you by Inter. Nearly 40 million clients around the Americas. You want to know more? Download Inter right now. Stay tuned for more.